You were the youngest of the runaways, but you always found a way to bring us together. Wanda said you like weird candy?
You were doing the sleep fighting again last night, Robin.
And I was in the middle of a good dream.
Captain Forrest here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over both these combatants to see who would win. More often not, in a crossverse situation, Nico Minoru from Marvel 616 versus Raven from DC Comics. And if you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for further content. Also, huge shout out to the HQ squad, massive shouts to the team. They've been a huge help in my videos, so much appreciated to them. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead, get right into the meat and potatoes of things. I'm going to move on and talk about Raven. Now, I actually made a Raven power scaling video if you guys want to check that out, but even then, I will still leave a summary in this video, or if not, you can just skip on and move over to the conclusions. However, I will still leave the summary for the new viewers in this channel. I'm going to go ahead and get right into meat and potatoes of things. So Raven states that if uncontrolled, her powers could destroy a universe. Raven's soul inhabits the space separating the earth and the 11 worlds of the afterlife. Raven has the power to turn the heavens to ashes. Inside Raven is another dimension, an empty void. We also go to see that Raven's good self was able to fuse with her demon self into one being. Another impressive feat for Raven was demonstrated when she encased an avatar of Darkseid in her soul self and feels Darkseid's wrath. Raven used her powers as an empath to manipulate Darkseid's soul, fusing it with Wonder Woman's mother soul. So that's going to round up standard Raven. I'm going to go ahead, talk a bit about White Raven. So due to getting amped by the people of Azeroth, Raven gets superpowered and was able to kill Trigon. Trigon is the destroyer of all that exists, and that the Baron states that that Trigon is an evil that's beyond any he's ever suffered before, and noted that Trigon will destroy the balance of good and evil, and that Trigon will destroy everything. White Raven was also able to clean herself from Trigon's influence completely, which is very impressive considering that base Raven was unable to relinquish Trigon's influence over her and her emotions. In the nexus of all dimensions, she is at her most powerful. White Raven goes on to summon the emotions of all the people on Earth and experience them all in one go. So that's going to round up White Raven. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Raven's insane and impressive form called Raven the Unkindness. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the stuff that Raven the Unkindness has demonstrated, some of her feats, and just a little bit of the origin of how she acquired such a powerful ability and a powerful form. So the origin behind how Raven obtained this insane amp and form is through taking in the 4 riders of the apocalypse, death, famine, pestilence, and war, and then stealing the power of Shazam for herself. Billy Batson, aka Shazam, calls her the rock of the Eternity's most dangerous inmate. This was because she gained his power. The other prisoners at the time were the 7 deadly sins. Neuron states that with the Spectre killed dead, along with Shazam's power, she can enter God's realm without fear of judgment. At first glance, this could mean that the Spectre is above the Unkindness, but this could very well be talking about the version that didn't have Shazam's power as well. And later, Cyprus, Alien, Spectre literally couldn't do anything to her, so she's likely massively above the Spectre. He could also be talking about the Spectre interfering with her plans before she was unleashed as well. It's also shown Mogo was able to detect her trans-dimensional shift in trans-dimensional space. The Unkindness comes, and it's stated that it consumes every plane of existence in order to bring an end to all things. She also amped the 7 deadly sins as well to absolutely destroy Superman Prime 1 million, which is literally rebirth Superman 1 million years into the future, and Prime was the most powerful hero of that era. Superman Prime 1 million is a lot more stronger, and his cells are supercharged, giving him his unique golden form. He would also have his World Forger scaling too, which Prime 1 million Superman would be high altiversal, and despite all of this impressive scaling, he was no match for the amped 7 deadly sins, which are complete fodder compared to the Unkindness. The most powerful pieces of the universe / creation was consumed plane by plane, dimension by dimension into the darkness of the Unkindness. The Unkindness is called an old god and drove her chariot through various dimensions and planes, consuming and gobbling its most powerful pieces. She even went outside the time stream as well. Since Raven was looking and eating powerful realms, you could even possibly argue that she was consuming portions, if not the whole thing of the 6th dimension. But I'll go a little bit more into that as I continue. So Phantom Stranger states that she absorbed everything in hell, leaving it a wasteland, while stating that the Unkindness was more powerful than ever, leaving the Rock of Eternity. Lords of Order and other things retreat to the Tower of Fate because they knew that they were bested. Keep in mind, we see Zoriel and Angel and a 5D imp, Wonder Woman imp, or Wonder Might as she's called, implying that heaven and the 5th dimension were devoured. The Quintessence was also here, which includes the Wizard Shazam and the Spectre. They literally had to gather the scraps of the realms the Unkindness left behind to rebuild. Even the Quintessence had to hide and let Unkindness continue to consume more powerful realms. She was also able to consume parts of the timeline, erasing Gold Beetle, the queen of the quantum realm. Unkindness is so powerful that when she erased Resurrection Man, he couldn't even feel the peace he sought before he was no more. She goes on to easily one-shot the Wizard Shazam and Black Adam, and says that she can unravel their very existence to make them suffer for eternity. She also says that it is time for the end of all things. Raven notes that the Unkindness caused the end of all creation, ravaged all of the time, and tied and consumed every thread of existence. Okay, so that's going to round up Raven in terms of her impressive destructive feats and forms. Let's talk about her speed, hexes, and resistances, and any other miscellaneous stuff. So Raven should easily have immeasurable to irrelevant speed. Raven was able to tag and blitz Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan himself has demonstrated impressive speed showings of his own, such as flying to the future without his lantern, and can travel a timeless, distanceless barrier in an instant. Raven is able to react to Starfire and avoid her attacks, and Raven has tagged the Teen Titans with her powers. So that's going to round up speed. I'm going to go ahead and talk about her abilities. So Raven has some impressive showings with her magic powers, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of those. So Raven learned the secrets of instant teleportation and has demonstrated to teleport and travel to different realms. She's used her teleportation in combat to also avoid attacks. Raven is able to sense portals. She's able to teleport to realms such as Azeroth, which is an altiversal distance. Raven is able to use her soul self, astral form, which is controlled by her thoughts, though if it's captured or endangered, her real body is in danger. But later on, we discover that her soul self is a separate entity, so Raven will still be alive as long as her soul self remains. An example of this was when Hyperion shattered her soul and Raven was still alive despite the fact that it was shattered. When Raven's body died, her soul possessed another person, destroying their souls and cutting off their life. Even when Raven's body was unconscious, her soul self was still able to operate. Raven can absorb things with her soul self and even absorb people inside. Inside herself is an empty void, and it is very cold inside. While inside her dimension, she is in control, as she can torture and fear hacks her opponents. Raven can use her soul as a shield to protect herself and push her opponents away. She's even demonstrated with her soul self to turn intangible to escape Hal Jordan's green construct cage. Her soul self has protective barriers to protect it from being corrupted by evil. Time and distance means nothing in her soul self. Raven's soul self can create dark constructs and tendrils to tag her opponents. Her soul self burns a person that was trapping souls. Raven's body and soul exists independently from each other, which explains how she's able to survive without a soul perfectly fine, and vice versa. Raven has also shown to literally use her soul self like a stand from JoJo, punching up goons. Raven's soul self can protect Raven from being possessed. Raven was able to go deep into her soul to pull out her full powers to temporarily weaken and dampen Trigon's will. Raven can BFR people to different dimensions, such as Hell and Azeroth, which the realm can drive you mad and make you feel sick. She can summon the darkness, demons, demigods, and allies to fight for her in combat. She even teleported the Teen Titans to help her one time too. Being an empath, Raven is able to use empathy manipulation. She is able to swallow up a crowd of people's emotions She can alter people's emotions, such as making Wally fall in love with her. She can sense pain, evil and danger. Raven is able to heal people by using her powers as an empath to draw the pain to herself and then expel the pain. She is able to calm people down with her powers. Raven can sense multiple people at a time and can sense their power. Raven also has sleep hacks. She was able to put the god Rhea to sleep and calm her bloodlust. Raven can dig deep into your deepest subconscious and can reach into your mind and alter it. She can sense your deepest fears and exploit them. Raven's powers work on a spiritual level. Raven has mind hacks the Teen Titans with nightmares. Raven overall can affect and alter people's emotions. She's able to fear hacks and scare her opponents away. She's able to shatter the Titan's soul. Raven can fill her opponents with mindless rage, making them both fight each other. She's able to read people's minds and extract information from people's minds, and she can also create illusions and off-guard her opponents that way. She can use telekinesis and also create barriers for defense. She can create dark tendrils to attack her opponents. Raven can manipulate curses. Her powers are based in magic, and she's demonstrated the ability to manipulate the energy of the time stream. Raven can also power null people by casting spells. Raven has also demonstrated to take control over the Batman from the Dark Multiverse's constructs and make them attack him. Raven has spiritual awareness, so she can sense a million souls, and also she can detect if she's being analyzed. Raven can also regen from injuries. Her eyes can also see invisible people. Raven has precognition, which allows her to see into the future at times, and also has a danger sense. Okay folks, that's going to round up her hexes. I'm going to go ahead and move on to her resistances. Raven goes through intense mental torture for an extended period of time as the images repeat themselves over and over and over again in her mind. She only passes out and her mind remains unbroken. Raven goes through insanity with a further step into insane as she goes through madness itself, going through the dimensions. Throughout it all, she resists it and she's able to conquer it. Raven can control her emotions in order to resist fear manipulation. She was able to resist Donna's lasso of truth, which is very impressive, and she's also resisted BFR. Raven has resisted the touch of Headache, who absorbs the minds of those he touches. Her soul self is foolproof against her brother's Hellfire. Keep in mind, Hellfire attacks the mind, body, and soul. A person who can steal powers through touch gets completely negged really badly after attempting to do this on Raven. Some other noteworthy feats for Raven. Raven was reading the emotions of the Ultima and could tell its intentions. The Ultima is an incredibly complex machine built by the monitors to travel through the bleed, and Raven was able to teleport for a night straight. Where Nico really shines is her Staff of One. There is a statement made by her parents stating that the Staff of One, which is a powerful magical instrument, is enough to make even the dread Dormammu tremble in fear. And for my consistent viewers, they are heavily aware of the amazing power of Dormammu. You know, the dude who rules over the dark dimension, the same guy who can casually revoke Iron Man and Thor's powers. He can nab and take control of Majik, who is able to affect a conceptual round called Limbo, and Dormammu being too much of a threat and was powerful than the other Hell Lords, to the point even the likes of Mephisto and Hela and the other Hell Lords had to plot against Dormammu. Yeah, that guy. And this Staff of One's power is enough to make this very same dude tremble if we take this statement to heart. Very impressive. Now there are some more showings with the Staff of One in terms of feats, but I will kill two birds with one stone in this video and show you what the Staff of One can do to the characters it affects, and I'll also talk about the hexes behind Nico's staff. So let's get right into that, shall we? So the Staff of One is a catalyst that Nico uses in combat. She uses reality warping magic and spells. For those who are unaware, magic in Marvel is conceptual, fundamental, and it has its own laws, it has its own rules, and it has its own stipulations. So there's some lore hacks behind, you know, magic in Marvel. There's literally magic that can literally affect the laws of causality, so cause and effect. So the same thing can be applied to pretty much a lot of magic in Marvel, and the same would apply to Nico Minoru, so she would have these type of hexes too. Anyway, Nico is granted an alternate way to use her spells without the need to cut herself to apply blood. By allowing her staff to bleed into her, Nico sacrifices a tiny part of her to the staff, in turn allowing the staff to become a part of her and allowing her to use her spells without the need to give it blood through cutting herself. The Staff of One can also manifest itself into its human form, and the staff also contains unlimited power. Nico expands and improves her vocabulary with her magic thanks to vision, allowing her to cast the same spells using different languages and phrases to bypass the staff's drawback of the inability to cast the same spell twice. The Staff of One contains all of the power of the past, present, and the future. If you attempt to steal and take possession of the Staff of One, a giant demon will be auto-summoned and will devour and BFR you. Now, that's pretty much it for how the Staff of One works, in terms of its general functionality. I'm going to go ahead and move on and talk about something that Nico had for a brief moment, and it was her witch arm. Before Nico's arm was fixed, Nico had a magic mechanical arm which contains magic. She can use her magic imbued arm in combination with her Staff of One to attack her foes, such as casting blunt force. Nico can also cast spells through the arm alone as well. Nico used her magic arm to cast back her Staff of One when it was taken from her. Nico can also amp the potency of her magic and physical attacks with her magic when she is bloodlusted, which allowed her to punch down and mutilate a demon. Now let's move on to some more of Nico's hacks. So Nico has a laundry list of spells that she uses in combat, such as the time she used the spell by saying freeze in order to freeze Gertrude's mother in place. She can cast smoke to blind her opponents. She can cast burst, which causes 2 spray bottles to burst, and she can do this on living things too. She also has gravity manipulation. She caused Chase's parents to float in the air by saying float on. Nico caused Alex's gauntlets to break apart by saying hands off. Nico has cast disassemble, breaking apart Def Locket's laser cannon. She can cast deconstruct, which causes a villain's body to fall apart like salami. She can also bombard you with sound waves by casting Rockstar, which blasts a high frequency sound of magic. Upon contact, it causes the foes to experience a sharp loud noise, causing them extreme pain. Nico can make your weapons backfire on you, such as casting You Suck, which caused Turbo's wrist turbines to reverse on itself, causing them to explode. Nico can nullify electricity by casting Insulation, which negged Victor's electricity. Nico is capable of casting a knockout spell. She can also use sealing techniques, such as saying shine like a diamond, which sealed Ultron's body inside of a diamond. Nico can also cast invisibility spells. She can also cast Acid Rain, which summons a small acid cloud of rain, which burns the opponent. She can also use some transmutation spells. Nico turned Gert's dinosaur into a bloodhound, casting Old Lace to Old Yeller. She also cast a spell to cause her teammates' legs to turn to stone and gets dragged into the water to drown. She can cast out Hellfire, which also burns your soul to ash. She can also perform sleep hacks, such as casting Dreamtime to put you to sleep. Nico also used this on the A-Force to put them to sleep by saying the spell Sleeping Beauties. She can also blind her opponents by saying Sunburst and cast Get Lost, which blinds Hawkeye, but Nico's intention was to BFR her to Mars. Nico can also erase your memories by saying the word forget. She can cast a size manipulation spell. She can also cast a magic barrier to trap her opponents. She can cast a phasing spell to phase through the roof by saying going down. She can also use death hacks by casting the spell Crash, causes all of Kingpin's ninjas to drop dead, and Nico can also cast Grim Reaper to insta-kill a woman. There was this also hilarious moment in one of the comics where she basically turned Man-Eater into a vegan by saying the word vegan. Nico cast a spell called The Show Must Go On to prevent Gert's parents from trying to change and intervene with the future. You can also BFR her opponents. She was able to say the word scatter, which caused the opponents to scatter and go to different random countries. Nico can also use sealing hacks as she threatens to put some people inside of a pickle jar. She can also cast wings, allowing her to fly. Nico also casts Cocoon to restrain her foe and cast Bondage to restrain a bunch of demons in chains. She can also use Empathy and Sleep Manipulation. She casts Settle Down to calm down Kara and make her fall asleep. She can also cast Crystal Light, which BFR'd and erased the house and everything surrounding it. She also cast Abraham Lincoln, which created a magical wooden house around them to protect her and her friends from danger. Nico can also cast Snow Globe and create a barrier to get through the snow. And she can also perform attack reflection techniques, such as casting Deflector Shields to reflect lightning back at her opponent. And she can also perform existence erasure techniques, so she can also use the word unmade, causing Antimatter's body to vanish. This very same Antimatter states it felt like being in the dark and inside nothingness. She can also cast the spell Free Your Mind to remove the mind control from her opponents. She can cast Be Still to completely immobilize her opponents too. She also has stat amplification spells, such as casting Spring is Sprung to amp Captain Marvel, making her stronger. Nico can also perform power nullification spells. While Nico was under Countess's spell, she turned off She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Dazzler, and Medusa's powers. Nico literally casts the word unworthy to power null Allison, making her hammer fall to the ground when she called upon it. So that's actually a very powerful and impressive feat. So even those who are worthy and have like the power of Mjolnir and literally like Thor's power, just her saying unworthy literally power nulls and makes these characters unworthy. Some pretty crazy scaling right there. She also has some mind resistance feats, so even while under Countess's mind control, Nico is able to cast Breathe, allowing her team to breathe underwater when they were going to suffocate. Nico has cast a spell on Medusa, allowing her to breathe and move around in space. She's also cast a spell called Keep Our Faces Shield to protect her and her team from a radiation blast after antimatter was destroyed. Some more empathy manipulation feats, such as casting That's the Power of Love to make Countess change her evil ways, and Nico can also cast some clones too. Nico can also cast the word Back Off to push back Captain Marvel and Medusa, and she can also cast Get Out to blast away Chase, who was amped and also had the control of the Dark Hawk suit. She can also cast teleportation spells to teleport her to specific locations via coordinates. She can cast Demetamorphosis to reverse Alice's transmutation. She can cast Bioenergy to fire an energy blast at the shark. She can cast Blow and it shoots out a blast of magic at her opponents. And Nico performs a massive area of effect with her magic against some shield goons too. She can also cast Gunshot, blasting a giant magic bullet at her opponent. She can also use ice manipulation. She says the word Chill Out to freeze everyone within the area. And she also broke out her team and herself from an invisible barrier by saying Pop. She also cast Goo Be Gone to break her teammates out of the slime that was suffocating them. She's capable of casting spells to stop your heart. She can cast Quit Force, causing her opponents to give up. She can also cast Quirky Do Something. I think it means Sun Circus. We'll just call it Sun Circus for now. But basically, it causes two dudes to ram into each other in a weird position. But basically, the spell is a reference to the Sun Circus, which performers will perform acrobatics. Really strange. She can also cast Wardrobe Malfunction to cause her opponent's cloak to get in the way, especially impeding them in combat. Nico can also use Telekinesis. Nico can cast Dance to make her opponents just randomly dance arbitrarily. She can cast Empty Clip, causing her opponent's bullets to disappear, and she can cast Herd Cats to pacify a bunch of hostile animals and hostile cats and basically make them follow her command. She can cast Here Comes the Sun to make the sun appear. She can also summon an astral projection to trick Cyclops and claps him in the head with her staff. She can cast Paranema to heal herself. She also has disease manipulation. She casts Outbreak, giving them the pox and causing her ops to experience an outbreak on their skin with giant spots and pus. She can cast Safe House and Slam Door to open and close her portals. She can also use fire manipulation and absorption. She casts Backdraft to absorb the heat and fire around her. She can cast Recycle to shoot back the fire at her opponents. She can also use explosion manipulation, so she casts Botsplode, causing the broken sentinel to explode. She can also use electric manipulation by casting Thunderstruck and shoots out a blast of lightning from her hand to electrocute Deathlock it. She can cast Giant Killer, which summons vines from the ground to restrain you. She can also cast Dirt Nap to bury you in the ground. Nico can also cast Igneous Rock to turn a lava golem into magma, then cast Sedimentary to turn its body into rocks. She can also cast Quicksand to cause the opponents to sink inside the sand, and she can also cast Brain Freeze to freeze the opponent's head. Nico can also put up an ice shield by casting Winter is Coming. So that's going to round up her crazy laundry list of spells. I'm going to go ahead and move on to other bits and bobs. So Nico Minoru was taught hand-to-hand combat and proficiency with her staff by Doc Justice. Nico and her teammates would undergo daily workouts, and Nico would also get an amp by her ancestors, and she's able to endure being tortured by her in order to increase her pain tolerance and improve her proficiency with magic. Nico is a magical intellect and she has really good senses. She was able to deduce that the song that was playing from the radio was an enchantment spell and that was turning people into mind-controlled zombies. Nico was also unaffected by the brainwashing spell / transmutation that was playing from the radio, which turned you into a mind-controlled zombie. And when Nico is bloodlusted, she starts to fight on pure instincts. And Nico herself has type 4 immortality, so the time when she died, the magic from her Staff of One literally revives her, imbuing her body with magic and pretty much gives her the edge. And lastly, Nico is completely unaffected by her own spells. Okay, so that's going to round up both these combatants. I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a cross-verse situation. To give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a cross-verse situation, I'm going to quickly talk about stats, talk about AP, talk about speed, and talk about how the fight would go down. So in terms of attack potency, now Nico Minoru, if you take this statement seriously for the Dormammu thing, that's easily like a creation level feat. That's easily like Ultraversal, High Ultraversal, Boundless, and you can even stretch it up to the extraversal ranges of attack power. So there's some really good stuff you can, stretch with that. So the Staff of One is very powerful. You can also use other feats of her damaging other characters too, like Captain Marvel, power nullification, just the hexes behind those spells are enough to even weaken characters who can already perform boundless, high ultraversal feats, and even some extraversal stuff. So the ranges are there. She's easily around those levels, at least like baseline, extraversal at the worst, and maybe a couple of transcendences depending on how you take it. Now when we look at Raven just has a lot of prominent feats, a lot of good upscaling, especially during the events of Dark Crisis. She actually fought against Spectre as well, and she was able to take hits from Spectre too, which is also impressive. And just due to how the DC cosmology works, and depending on certain various arguments, even if we don't include really good stuff, I would say in terms of like transcendences, I would say Raven would scale higher in terms of AP, and if we give DC its good stuff, exponentially higher, just vastly above, higher, very high into 1S, very high into extraversal, very high into boundless, very high into high ultraversal. So I would edge out more often not with Raven in terms of the AP department, just more prominent feats, just more showings, and I think that Nico Minoru just kind of lacks in a little bit of the AP departments, just mainly just using reliance on, statements and the occasional feats here and there. So in terms of speed, however, I do lean with Raven. I think Raven just has far concrete speed, scaling. She scales like really easily to other characters. She's able to react to them. These characters can literally perform casual, irrelevant speed feats on their own with some good layers into the tier. Now Nico Minoru, her speed isn't amazing. You could argue some, MFTL stuff, some infinite speed stuff, and you could even potentially argue some immeasurable speed for Nico Minoru. But however, if we're going off consistency, I just don't see it. The speed feats just aren't stacking up for Nico Minoru. So I would say that Raven would have the speed edge. Now when it comes to magic prowess and all that good stuff, and if it was to in a one-on-one situation, New York, standard battle assumptions, they're all fighting, Central Park, just due to Raven having more prominent feats, higher stats, and just her nasty hexes behind her soul self and nasty other magical abilities, I just think it's just going to be way too much for Nico. Even if we argue, Marvel and DC, they both have like their own conceptual stuff for their magic, be able to counter each other out if it came down to like the causality, lore hacks. There's other stuff you could argue, but if we're including like just stats, we're including more things into it, like levels and transcendences, then all of those laws and hexes behind, Nico Minoru's staff and her abilities are just extremely paltry. They would pretty much have little to no effect on Raven just due to the gap in difference in power. And we all know that Raven has really good resistances of her own, and due to the fact that she has the Great Darkness as well, she has a bit of the Great Darkness in her too, just due to that, it's just going to be very difficult for Nico Minoru to deal with Raven, unfortunately. And I have to give victory to Raven. Raven is just way too prominent, has better feats, better AP and speed, her magic, hexes and potency just far surpasses and is vastly above anything that Nico has shown, unfortunately. So I gotta give this victory to Raven. I'd say like low difficulty, but it's just the stats just ain't saying much for Nico. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed, let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Please subscribe and leave a like. But yes, it's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.